Techie Brezza, the Citybird SUV.
A little less than a year ago, this fixture at this venue gave us one of the all-time great IPL finals. But match 59, where Gujarat Titans take on Chennai Super Kings at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad, comes with both the teams having very different seasons. The Titans, who've been so used to being at the top of the table, find themselves at the bottom. Chennai Super Kings, generally accustomed to smooth sailing into the playoffs, have had it difficult so far. Can they make that push and get themselves closer to the top four? We build up to that game on Maruti Suzuki Arena, presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout, powered by JBL, where we have the company this Friday evening of Mitch McClenaghan, Deep Dasgupta and Shashank Kishore. Good evening, gentlemen. Good to see you all again. Quick rewind for all of us. That game, one thing we know will be different this time is that it will finish in one night.
Jeez, don't tempt fate. Don't tempt fate.
There's no option, Mitch. It has to finish.
No, but it can still go to 1 in the morning.
That can happen,
So,
but there's no reserve.
I guess
One
that's
on the
night.
third morning.
Yeah.
So, and Shashank Kishore here had to delay, had to change so many flight tickets because he was at the ground.
One flight ticket, but yeah, 3-day final. It was 4 a.m. by the time we wrapped up from the ground.
Jeez.
So yeah, on the third day. Yeah.
That feels like some time ago, but what also feels like a long time ago is the reverse fixture, because these two teams also met in the opening week of this season, and Chennai won quite comfortably. And at that time, they had Ravindra, who was in his second match and who was firing on all cylinders. We believe he's back after a while on the bench.
Yep. We've seen it quite often with teams or players throughout this season so far that got off to a good start, tapered off a little bit, been given a rest. And every time a player's been given a rest, they seem to have come back better than ever. So expecting big things from Rachin today. But yeah, it's really fascinating, the battle between Chennai and Gujarat Titans, isn't it? Gujarat got off to such a great start historically against them. I think they won their first 3 games against them, and then since then, particularly since that final, they're really tapered off, haven't they? And it's been something that they haven't really found a way to be able to come back from.
Yeah, it's a run that began for Chennai with the qualifier last season, and ever since. And this season in particular, you feel like there's been such a wide gulf between them.
It is, I
even though they look quite similar.
Yeah, but if you look at that team, you can see the difference there. It's all good to kind of talk about last 2 years, last 3 years, but this year particularly, the gulf is pretty big in terms of the squad and the team itself. I mean, CSK, I think they've losing a few bowlers, but apart from that, I mean, talking about GT, I thought it was a very weird kind of a season for them. A lot of injuries, a lot of players missing because of injuries, bad form, everything's come together.
Yeah, and that reflects in itself in the points table, where Gujarat Titans are rock bottom. They are 10th. Chennai Super Kings sit in 4th. They're on 12 points. They know Delhi and Lucknow are chasing, level on points. RCB, with last night's win, have still kept themselves just about alive. And so of greater significance, of course, to Chennai today's fixture, because if you look at the remaining games, CSK will finish their league stage campaign with a game against RCB, which, if other results go in a certain way, Shashank, will be a decider. But before that, they also have to contend with a day game against Rajasthan later this week.
Yeah, and if they can make it a lot simpler for themselves by winning tonight and going to 14, and then creating a little bit of trouble for the others. But should they lose and should Titans upset them here, then it gets a lot more interesting.
And that's why this game will have the interest of all the RCB fans who kept themselves alive with the win last night. Because you look at the fixtures again, when Chennai, after the game tonight in Ahmedabad, make the trip, and on Sunday afternoon they will be playing Rajasthan in Chennai.
Yeah, that's interesting. But the other side is obviously they're competing with Delhi as well. So Delhi, I think they only finish on the 12th or the 13th.
They play RCB on 12th.
12th, and that's it. They finish their campaign, as in the league phase. So that's kind of an advantage, if you play as late as possible, so you know what the equations are like and where you stand and stuff like that. So from that perspective, I think CSK is in a better position.
Right. One thing has worked well for Chennai, which hasn't a lot this season. They have won the toss. Only the second time in 12 outings that Ruturaj Gaikwad called correctly, and that they have decided to bowl first, which is not a surprise, which allows us to focus on the man who was the star of the final, Ravindra Jadeja, has been so key to Chennai Super Kings. He recreated that moment from Ahmedabad for CSK's socials when he was training at the Narendra Modi Stadium the day prior to this game. He was player of the match in the last game, and you can see how important Jadeja, the bowler, is to CSK's fortunes. When you look at the numbers, in CSK's wins this season compared to their losses, there's a big difference. And you can also add to that he has bowled his quota 7 times this season, and CSK have won 5 of those matches. Generally, a firing Jadeja as a bowler tends to go hand in hand with a winning CSK.
I mean, that's true. I mean, obviously, his role as a bowler, especially when you look at that, and Theeksena's not playing regularly, he's the #1 bowler there. 4 overs from him are very, very crucial. I wonder if that also coincides with the kind of pitches that they've played on, and, whether they were like 240, 250 pitches, or rather 180, 200 kind of pitches. So that'll be interesting to see what kind of pitches they played when they got those wins and all. But again, last game, and Jadeja, both with bat and ball. I mean, I'm happy that he's getting, that confidence back with bat and ball just before the World Cup. There have been quite a few questions been asked. So, and bowling-wise, let's not forget, I mean, not just the wickets, his economy rate. Even though the games that he's not picking wickets, he's bowling well. He's bowling economically. So I think that in itself, being a finger spinner, adds value.
Yeah, and it's a pattern that has held true not just this season, but through Jadeja's CSK career, Mitch. When Jadeja fires, CSK generally are on the winning side.
Yeah, no doubt, because they usually win, don't they? So if he performs, they've got a pretty good success rate, don't they? But yeah, he's high quality. I think we saw him struggle at the start in terms of having an impact on the wickets that were being produced around the competition, but they've come back to Chennai and the wickets just stuck a little bit. So it's been advantageous for his bowling, but the season's kind of turned around when they put him up the order with the bats, and it's always one of those things with all-rounders. They seem to, when one facet's struggling, the other one seems to struggle as well, and you need both to kind of be at some kind of an equilibrium to get the best out of your all-rounders. And ever since he's got some runs, therefore, while they weren't at a great clip, his bowling has seemed to have got better. And that last game with the bat, he was sensational again.
That's a very interesting point, because just try and think of his performance with the bat in Test match cricket. So he was earlier on batting at number 7, 8 in Test match cricket, and then we kept talking about how he's got triple hundreds in first class cricket. Why isn't he doing that, replicating it in international? Then the moment he started batting at 6, it was 2017 onwards, the West Indies series, Jadeja, the batter, was a different batsman altogether. He started getting runs, players started batting more responsibly. Maybe the same thing as we were talking about. The moment you put him back, I don't know, whatever it is, could be temperament, could be like, I'm number 8, doesn't matter. But the moment he starts batting up the order, takes a lot more responsibility.
Just when we get back to the bowling, that difference of Jadeja in CSK and how they perform is something that has carried on over the years. In fact, Jadeja, if we draw up the numbers, has the biggest difference in bowling average between wins and losses for any bowler, given a minimum of 75 wickets taken for a team. Take us through this story of Jadeja with CSK, Shashank.
We played a graphic a while ago where in the 6 wins, the economy rate's very low. If you look through those 6 wins, you'd also notice that the entry point has largely been conditions dictated. But again, he's also bowled and he's held his own against left-handers. So it hasn't been like they've held him back just because there are left-handers in the 11. You look through the game against Kolkata Knight Riders, he got Sunil Narayan out, Venkatesh Iyer out. You look through that opening game against RCB when that big partnership between a left-hander, Anuj Rawat, was going very well. Jadeja held his own there. Against Mumbai Indians, he came up against Tilak Verma and he kept him quiet, and he also picked up wickets. Against Punjab and Dharamshala, small ground, you'd think that potentially he could, the matchups will be against him, but he bowled superbly and got Sam Curran out. The only game that he didn't really come up against, was challenged, was against Sunrisers, and that game was an easy game for Chennai Super Kings in that sense that they got Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma early, and then the Sunrisers collapsed. So he didn't come up against them in that game. But otherwise, in all their wins, he's held his own equally against left-handers and the right-handers. That's been the most notable aspect.
When you look at those numbers and the ones through spanning Jadeja's CSK career, does that seem more do you see the correlation?
Definitely, yes. There's absolutely no two ways about it. I mean, for the longest time, and he's been the main spinner. Obviously he had a little bit of help from the others, but and 4 overs, and thinking about how this also includes when MS was leading the side, and MS, when the pitch is turning, is a very different captain from when the pitches aren't. He loves to control the game with spin, and that's what he did, and Jadeja was one of the key players when CSK has done well, because he would control with those Jadeja's 4 overs and the spinners overs.
And that's where Jadeja's prominence increases as the season goes deeper, because once the surfaces start getting a little more tired, Jadeja, the bowler, all that more important for CSK.
Yeah, massively. And then I guess when you hear at the toss today that the wicket might be a little bit sticky, he's going to be bowling first on that type of wicket. And generally when it's sticky, yes, it seems it might swing a little bit, but also sticks in the wicket for the spinners as well. So expect him to have some impact again today. I like the pairing of Mitchell Santner and Jadeja playing in the same team. They're different bowlers. Jadeja's your stock guy in the middle, but Mitchell Santner can bowl with the new ball and also complement in the middle phases.
It's quite interesting. I mean, quite a few left-handers in that middle order as well.
Yeah, we believe there's a lot of changes for Gujarat Titans. So let's take you through how the Titans are lining up against CSK in Ahmedabad. GT, who are batting first. You see a return for Matthew Wade. Ridhiman Saha is out. Shubman Gill said it's a niggle at the toss. There's a return for Umesh Yadav. There is a first game of the season for Kartik Tyagi. And Noor Ahmed also comes back in place of Josh Little. You see those many changes at this time of the season, and generally it does correlate to a side which is not in the race for the playoffs.
This looks like a better side, though.
Yeah.
This looks like a better side.
True, I agree.
You've got Matthew Wade at the top. You've got their left-hander who's explosive, will come out of the gates firing. Saha, unfortunately for him, hasn't fired out as he has done in the past. He used to be dynamic out of the blocks and really dominate the power play, but he hasn't done that today. And that's one component that they've been missing. Noor Ahmed was going to come in, right?
Yeah.
The bigger boundaries, he bowls well at Ahmedabad. And then I think Josh Little, while he had a good return in the last game, I don't think he bowled particularly well. I think he was a benefactor of the wicket being a little bit up and down, and then RCB actually also looking to take him on and really trying to get back on par with their run rate. And they had to take a few more risks than they would have done usually. So I like the move, and Tyagi coming in, been saying it for the last couple of shows that we'd like to see them maybe go to their local bowlers so they can bolster the batting, and I think this looks like a far more balanced side.
Yeah, and Umesh Yadav, Kartik Tyagi, you can also see that they did try to go spin heavy in a few games.
Yeah.
But given that Mohit Sharma is also having a difficult season, you perhaps see why they need the bowling cover in the seam department.
Absolutely. I mean, you had Mohit opening the bowling last game, who's predominantly a middle or death over bowler. So obviously Umesh coming in, and it's also kind of, obviously they're missing Shami, but this is the best thing that they can do in terms of staying with that template. So Shami goes, Umesh comes in, again somebody who usually takes wickets with the new ball and bowls with the new ball. And he's went for a few, but again, he's a quality bowler. He can give you those early wickets and breakthroughs. Kartik Tyagi first game for GT as well, so quite interesting. I mean, he burst into the scene. Sorry, every time I get a football thing every time I say burst into the scene. But anyways, so
pick your brains on that a little later.
A couple of years ago, straight after under 19, he was bowling at 145, and but then suddenly, last couple of years, he just fell off the radar a bit. It'll be quite interesting and good to see him back. Yeah.
Give us a quick update on Kartik Tyagi. IPL viewers wouldn't have seen him for a while.
Burst onto the scene in the Under-19 World Cup 2020, but after that he's had a number of injuries. He did really well for Sunrisers Hyderabad in 2021, I think. Went on that Australia tour, was the only member of that in the squad in Australia that didn't play a game. So sat through the entire tour in lockdowns and quarantines for 4 months and didn't play a game. But since he's come back, he hasn't played a lot of domestic cricket. He's had a number of stress fractures, couple of stress fractures, an ankle injury, a knee injury, all this in a span of the last 3 years. So he's largely played white ball cricket, doesn't play red ball cricket, just played one Ranji game for Uttar Pradesh. So he's working his way back into full fitness. I'm not sure if that was the reason why it's taken them this long for him to play his first game. But it's good to see him back. Potential performance. I mean, he's done that over the years at the domestic level. Well, it remains to be seen if he can translate that at the IPL level.
There are changes for Chennai Super Kings too, most notably at the top of the order, because we see a return for Ravindra. He was the star of the show in the reverse fixture, smashed 46 of 20 when CSK beat GT. That was only the second game of the season for them, but then he went through a lull and sat on the bench. Ravindra is there. Their overseas complement is Darren Mitchell, Moeen Ali, Mitchell Santner. No room for Richard Gleeson. And a starting role for Simarjeet Singh, who impressed so much in that quick burst against Punjab Kings in Dharamsala the other day.
Yeah, Simarjeet was high quality. He came in with some energy. Like he actually played like a man who's been on the bench for the whole tournament, waiting for his opportunity. And he was class. He came in with some pace. He was impactful. So it's nice to see him get another opportunity. I guess, again, as we've been speaking about this with Chennai for some time, they're really trying to figure out what team they can put on the park that gets them to that 180, 190, 200 score consistently, because they've just been falling that little bit short. And it'll be interesting to see who comes in as the impact sub, whether it is Rahane or as Rizvi.
Yeah, it's interesting because this time CSK generally have very limited batting options to bring in as the impact sub. But if you look at the bench this time around, I don't think we've seen Avnish Aravelli too often on the impact bench. He is there. He's the only other wicketkeeper in the squad. There's Rizvi, there's Rahane.
There's Rashid as well.
And with Ravindra and Darren Mitchell there, you can see a conceivable top three. So is there a chance Rahane might not actually make it to the batting team?
Yeah, I mean, listen, because Rachin should be opening along with Ruturaj, and I'm not too sure whether you can play Ajinkya anywhere else apart from maybe top three.
Yeah.
So at best, he might come in and bat at 3, which I guess they don't need.
I've been nervous of sliding Daryl Mitchell down to Noor Ahmed and to Rashid Khan. I think so. It's whether they bring someone in to bolster who's good at playing spin in that middle order. That would be my pick. That they'll go with that top 3. Yeah. And maybe Rahane can bat in that middle phase. I know he's not traditionally an aggressive player of spin.
And his, especially this year, his strike rate against spin is pretty low. It's, I think, 120 or something.
So it could be a Rizvi or someone like that, if needed.
So
because they've still got Dubé in the middle there. Or I've got a feeling it might be a fail-safe impact player at the back end if they get into trouble. Because you've still got Mitchell Santner there, right?
Exactly.
Like he's coming in at 8. So, like, you still
got enough batting there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did Rizvi donk him for a couple of sixes when he came in and played the first game?
Yes, that was Rizvi's
He went
first
after Rashid Khan.
Yes, first ball in the IPL hit Rashid for a 6. But that's the other thing that's curious when you look at that middle order. Dubé, Moeen, Jadeja, and let's face it, more often than not, Santner is coming ahead of Dhoni. So you've got all left-handers from 4 to 8.
Yeah, that's quite interesting, actually. Yeah, I mean, I won't be surprised if Darryl Mitchell does not bat at 3. Somebody else, a left-hander, and all the left-handers are split by a right-hander Darryl Mitchell in there. So, yeah, I mean, the good part is they've got a lot of flexibility when you look at their batting, or a lot of batting depth and a lot of flexibility. Anyone can bat anywhere. So, I mean, that's a luxury that they have.
Right. Chennai's batting is something we'll come to a little later, but Gujarat batting first, and batting first in a season where almost nothing has clicked for them with the bat. They are the worst performing batting unit across parameters. This is a table that perhaps conveys where the season has gone as pear-shaped for GT as it has. They have 5 totals of 150 or below. No other team in the league has 3 this season.
Just in case you're wondering, there's only 10 teams in this league as well. Just thought I'd point that out in case you're looking at that league ranking.
Yes, Einstein.
Wow. I mean, I'll take a while to come back from that genius.
Look, unfortunately for them, they've been shocking. It's been a tough season for them with the bat. I think the moves they made in the off-season with Hardik going to Mumbai, allowing that trade, left a bigger hole than they probably thought it would, and guys not been informed. Saha David Miller hasn't fired it early.
Yeah.
Robin Minns getting injured pre-season. He was the guy who they earmarked to kind of go into the number 4 role. So kind of hasn't rolled their way in terms of their batting unit. But yeah, you would have thought they'd be competitive in at least one of those categories.
When you look at those numbers, Deep, not just the fact that they are 10th, but also the gulf in some of those numbers. I mean, if you look at sixes hit in a season which has been so much about six hitting, they are twice as worse than what the league average is.
True.
Does it somewhere point to a batting template or a batting philosophy which has been found out as outdated?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, this is the same philosophy that has worked for them in the last couple of years. They have a particular template, and this year, I guess a lot of the other teams have moved on from that kind of a template. Secondly, I think one of the important components of that template are missing in terms of, let's say, Ridhiman, who would give them a quick start, not necessarily a big score, but a quick fire 20-25, get them rolling. Then Hardik to come and bat at number 4, set that platform for David Miller and Rahul Tewati to come in and finish it off in the last 5-6 overs. So that hasn't worked because obviously they're missing those components. Either they're not there or out of form. And secondly, the other teams have moved on from that kind of a template. They're hitting more sixes in the middle overs because the difference isn't much in the first 6 and the last 5. It's the 7 to 15 where teams who are hitting more sixes and more boundaries are creating that kind of a difference, which unfortunately GT has not moved on from that.
Yeah, and that reflects itself in the phase-wise breakdown of how Gujarat Titans are battered, because while they are still matching the league average almost at the depth, it is in those first 2 phases where if you break down that table further, Shashank, they're essentially on average scoring 24 runs lesser than the league average through the first 16 overs.
I mean, the top, there has been a lot of sameness to the top 3 this time around. I mean, Saha hasn't given them the starts. Gill hasn't been in the kind of form that he was last year. And Sudarshan scoring at 120. So that's kind of really hampered them. And that's kind of had a ripple effect on the middle order as well, with Miller not being in form. Vijay Shankar had a big role last year, but he hasn't played a lot of cricket this year. So all of this has contributed to them being very inconsistent and probably reflecting in their scoring rate as well.
Yeah, and Sai Sudarshan in particular, he's been scoring the runs, so he's done the job. He's got more than 400 runs, but 400 at a strike rate of 130 in this kind of season. What do you make of his season, and is he falling short?
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost you've got to say and identify that he's a very good player.
Yes.
He's a very good batsman. Let's not take that away from him, but he just hasn't found his tempo in T20 cricket yet. I stand by my comments a few shows ago of him being a one-day player at the moment and not being able to up the gears as quickly or as often as he needs to, and that's had an impact on their side, particularly with guys struggling around him, guys who generally would generate a strike rate. When they're not generating strike rate, he can't go at that same rate. So he needs to find that next gear to be a very good T20 player. But I think he's a classy player. He just needs to find a way against seam. As a seam bowler, you look at him and you feel like you can bog him down if you bowl well. You've got to bowl poorly for him to put you away. And that strike rate 120 definitely says that. And I think he's a very accomplished player against spin, and I think I'd like to see him take that even further. If you've got a disparity in strike rate between seam and pace, that's there. I think he could be even more aggressive against spin until he finds his way that he's going to be aggressive against pace, and that will actually balance out the small little gaps in his game at the moment.
A problem that becomes even more pronounced given everything we've discussed about GT's batting this season, because the strike rate of 135, 140 last season was absolutely no problem because you had Gill having the season he was and the middle order firing. But now, in a side where almost no one's scoring at 150s.
That is a big problem. I mean, and especially somebody who's having a good season in terms of averages. If he's on an average playing 40 deliveries or roughly around that, which is one third of the innings, and scoring at 130, that is definitely a problem. So I mean, I completely agree with you, and it's got to do with mindset. He still has that old school mindset where you protect your wicket and you build your innings and stuff like that. So it's more of a mindset thing rather than skill. So I think it's something that needs to work on in terms of unshackling himself, fearless cricket, and those cliched words we use nowadays.
And his chance to start correcting that comes right from the top, because it looks like he is partnering Shubman Gill. Let's see what that does to your decisions, because it's time for us to head into the impact zone. Take you through the rules. Each panelist picks 3 players for each game, a batter, a bowler and a wild card. Impact points for each player counted as per ESPN Cricket for Smart Stats, and the expert with the highest points tally for each match gets 3 points added to their season kitty. Deep Dasgupta is on a hat-trick after having earned points on the last 2 days. So, Mitch McClenaghan, take first strike and all the best to
I
you.
get first strike. Okay, I will go with Shivam Dubey.
Dubey, so we're going batters. Deep.
Ruturaj Gaikwad.
Gaikwad for Deep. Shashank.
Shubman Gill.
Shubman Gill. All right. And bowlers with Deep.
Sticky wicket, right? Jadeja.
Jadeja.
I might slip through.
So Shashank, you next.
Rashid Khan.
Rashid Khan. And Mitch.
I will go with Mitchell Santner.
Mitch Santner. And wildcards with Shashank.
Rachin Ravindra.
Rachin Ravindra. Mitch, to you.
I will go with... Who have I got? Jeez. Might have to come back
We'll get
to
the
me.
team sheets back up. That's GT if you're looking at anyone from there.
Okay, and then Chennai. Surely Chennai's going to win tonight. I will go with...
For the other Mitchell.
No, I'm not going to go with Terrell Mitchell. I will go with Noor Ahmed.
Noor Ahmed. Oh, you asked for the CSK team. You can then pick Noor Ahmed. Well done. Well done. Deep, close it out for us.
So Shivam's gone, obviously.
Yes.
Left-handers, Moin Ali.
Moeen Ali. Wow, so you guys have taken most of CSK. So I will quickly lap up Sai Sudarshan. Back him to turn a corner. Who was left in the bowling? You've taken Noor. You've taken... I will go with...
Tyagi.
Tushar Deshpande.
Good pick.
Nice.
And finally, let's get a CSK batter. Let's take Daryl Mitchell. That's me done. And into predictions and an outrageous pick, Mitch.
I'm going to say they're going to exceed expectations tonight in terms of their batting. They're going to get 192. Yeah, I know that's a big score. Not bad. And it's going to be led by David Miller. He's going to get 40 off, more than 40 off 21 balls or less.
40 plus of 21 or less. Well said. Deep.
192. All right. I'm going to go with 178.
178. And your outrageous pick?
I might actually go with Rahul Tewatia.
Don't say Shubman Gill to hit a 6 in the first over. That's off the table. Rahul Tewatia.
Rahul Tewatia to score 30 or more. 18 or less deliveries.
30 plus of 18 or less. I'll take it.
Who's that?
Rahul
Rahul
Tewatia. Actually, finisher, if he makes 30,
Yeah,
30 of 18 is slow.
Not,
so
okay.
put it under 15 and I can give it to you.
Okay. Under
30
50.
plus of 15 or below.
Yeah.
All right. And Shashank, close it
216. Shubman Gill to score 100.
Wow. Shashank is backing Shubman Gill, who was your first pick, so I see how you're going. All right. I wish you all well. That takes care of things. Gujarat Titans are underway. We will be back at the end of the first innings, so be sure to catch us then on Maruti Suzuki Arena. Presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout, powered by JBL. Download the ESPN Cricket for mobile app. A lot of reading material there. That bit we spoke about Jadeja and how he is so directly linked to CSK's health. That piece from Sid Monga and Shiva Jayaraman is worthy of your time, as indeed is Rashid Khan's interview. Catch that on the mobile app, and we'll see you once the GT batting effort is done.
hot and techy Bressa, the city bred SUV.